Well, good morning, everyone. Wow, D-Day. We're going to talk about that today. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, and you have tuned in to the Today Show. And on Thursdays, we feature our veterans community, our Indigenous community, our disabled community. And what a wonderful coincidence that D-Day just happened to be on a Thursday. So, welcome, welcome. And I have some veterans who'll be joining me shortly, and we're just going to talk about a whole lot of different things. So, right now, we're streaming live on Laurie Davis' Facebook page. You can watch us there. Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars, and I've got some superstars with me today, Facebook page, and also Laurie Davis YouTube channel, the Disability Facebook page. We are also distributed by Your Home TV. We picked that up a couple of weeks ago. And so that gives us extreme wide advantages in the United States. Your Home TV broadcasts in 80 countries around the world and has had up to 40 million viewers. So this has expanded our viewing audience just like overnight. And this morning, the founder of the Disability Channel, Jay Stoyan, and I, we did an interview with SiriusXM. So we're out there like a dirty shirt. Oh my goodness, I love it. Let's see, any other announcements I need to make? Big shout out, thank you to the Disability Channel for the opportunity to work with them. I've been broadcasting for a very long time, but I don't know, there was just something about the Disability Channel and the people that I've met there, and one of them is with us today, Stephen Beardwood. Um, it's just a really beautiful community that I have stepped into. So my heart's all over it. So I think that's why I would just do it all day long for nothing if I had to, because it's just about getting that message out there. On Mondays, we do 5 shows a week. And when Jay approached me, I said, "Oh no, I can't get excited about 1 show a week. I have to broadcast every day if I'm going to do it at all." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Yes." And so on Mondays, our show is all about self care, self improvement, empowerment. And that show, I either have a guest or do it by myself because that's our area that we work in. And Tuesdays is finance. And my co host, Dr. Ramin Modiri, he's a friend of mine out of California. He has every financial designation that you can actually get in the United States of America. Imagine that. And his claim to fame was he managed portfolios for wealthy soccer players. And he did that for many, many years. Wednesday is wellness. So anybody that has a wellness background or they have an alternative wellness product, or if it's conventional medicine, that's fine. But Wednesday's all about wellness. We always have a guest. And then Thursday's today. And then Friday's up for grabs. Friday we do musicians, artists, single moms who are being successfully parenting 10 kids. It doesn't matter, just as long as it's somebody that's making a difference. And so that's our show lineup. And yesterday I had a meeting with the United States Today Show, and we're going to do some work with them to help them expand that show there. So it's all very exciting and lots of great stuff going on. All right, but let's see. Do I have anything else? Nope, just happy Thursday. We're going to take a little break. Oh, we have somebody visiting us already. So let's see who this is. I think I probably know. Oh, yes, the Disability Channel. We love some kind comments and questions today from any of our viewers. And if you're watching the show on one of our Facebook pages, you can make comments there as well. It will come up here, actually, if you do that. The next little thing is we have opened our doors for advertising, promotion, sponsorships, and I'm going to show you a little sample of where this would occur. We're going to do a 30-second break, and then I'm going to bring my guests in, but this is a time when you could feature, let's say you're an author and you have a book and you want to get it out there. Maybe you have an event, a cause, let's see, a product. And so we're going to be starting to take on, we wanted to get a month under our belt and our numbers up there, and our numbers are very good. And if you're watching the show, whether it's on social media, YouTube, wherever, just put a little comment like terrific or great or it sucks, something, because then it helps our ratings. So when people leave comments, that has an impact. Okay, so there is all of our instructions and all of our announcements. So I'm going to just go into our ads. So you'll see snowflakes going up in the air, and this is where you could have your advertisement or your promotion. Well, we're back. Welcome back, everyone. And here are our beautiful guests for today, our veterans. So I guess we'll just get started by just having you introduce yourself and where you're located, because we're from all over, and maybe share what it is you're doing right now that you're out of the military. What's your role? What are you up to? And just take your time. And let's start with you, Stefan.
I always thought it was ladies first, too. Jeez.
No, not today. Not today.
I'm Stefan Beardwood. I'm a veteran of 17 years. I was a medic. I did 7 years of that with the Airborne as a commando, deployed into Somalia. And actually, I was one of 50 to jump into D-Day on the 50th anniversary.
Oh.
I actually jumped into D-Day this day 30 years ago. And it was a learning experience. It truly was. Because I learned more, I think, about airborne assaults by reenacting that than I had in a lot of other training.
Cool. So what are you up to now? What do you do now?
I am the chair and co-founder of the Veterans Health Alliance International, and we are working on multiple projects right now. One is funding a documentary on a healing group out east. We are also, I'm working on release of a book in the editing process. It should be released this fall. And I spend almost 100% of every hour waking I can at my trailer for the summer.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So we'll come back to you, Stefan, because we have some other questions. Over to you, Jill. A little bit about your history and what you're doing now.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie, and welcome everyone. My name is Jill Younghusband, and I served in the military first off as a trucker, and then I remustered into the administration branch, and I served for 17 years. I worked with the Canadian Forces Primary Reserve to start, and worked with a number of units in Ottawa. Worked in career management, did a stint in Namibia in Africa with the United Nations, and served with NATO AWACS in Germany in the 90s, and we monitored the no-fly zone over Bosnia. And I retired in 2000, and since then I've focused on music and advocacy, as well as program management with the University of Alberta and the Ottawa Hospital Cancer Centre. And now I'm fully retired, and my focus is health and wellness and self-care, which is why we got connected, Dr. Laurie, and I feel very privileged to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jill. Thank you very much. Over to you, Natalie.
Thanks, Laurie. My name's Natalie Force. I am here out of Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, and I served in the military from 2002 to 2016 as a medic. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2008 and 2010, and then got to do a short deployment out to Libya in 2011. In 2016, I was medically released, and I really struggled with transitioning and kind of finding my way, having lost like my rank and everything that comes with the military. So in 2020, I moved to Alberta, where there's just a greater veteran population, and kind of found my passion for helping people. And so we bought a clinic here in Fort Saskatchewan, and I've been supporting as a veteran ambassador to help the medical clinic understand veterans' needs and how to support them, as well as helping veterans understand what they're entitled to and helping them navigate that in collaboration with other community resources, other collaborators who help veterans in some way, shape, or form, and then connecting them with that. And so, on top of that, my organization helps or is working with an international research team to bring combat PTSD veterans to Peru to do plant medicine and to spearhead the research and understanding of psychedelics and treating mental health.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Jill, we might have to take a road trip. We're all in Alberta, so that would sound like a very interesting visit to come and see your clinic and learn more about that for sure. Well, let me ask you, this is a personal question, and this is about, when we finish one chapter of our life and we start something new, or we have to transition. Let's share with our viewers, how was that transition for you? Because everything that we separate ourselves from needs to be grieved. There's a loss there, getting up every day and getting your uniform on and going to work and doing what you do. For the first 6 months after you left the military, let's go there. What was life like for you at that time? That first 6 months after you retired or were discharged, honorably or not? Stefan, would you like to start us off with that?
Total non-functioning as a human being.
Wow.
With zero resources, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in legal fees, court cases, Children's Aid Society, just one attack after another. It was brutal.
What year did you retire, Stefan?
97, I was medically released, but I was, like I said, it was total non-functioning as a human, and zero resources, zero pensions, zero anything really. And I'd be truthful, I don't see a whole lot having changed.
Okay, well, we'll get to that.
Come into play, but there's not a lot that has changed.
Yeah, okay, and we'll get to that.
So that was 87. So yeah, so when you compare Natalie or Jill and stuff like that, and the time frames, you're going to see that there's an ongoing problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Jill, what about you? What was the first 6 months? What was it like for you?
I felt like I was on hold. I was in a holding tank because I was awaiting the start of a 2-year music program at Grant MacEwan. I finished work in March of 2000 and my school started in September. So it seemed like I was on pause, and it was very frustrating. I was surprised at my reaction to having all this time on my hands. I thought I was going to be so productive. And yet I was a little bit lost because I felt that the military was such a huge part of my identity. And I really believed in my service, and I felt that my life had more meaning when I was in uniform and doing something I thought was meaningful to our community and to our country. And so when that changes, there's a bit of an identity crisis.
A big one.
Yes.
A big one, didn't you say?
Yeah.
Over to you, Natalie. How was that first 6 months after you left the military?
Like, I'd have to agree with the others. It's a total identity loss, and I joined at 18, where I just started my adult life per se, and I grew up in a town of 100 people. So my life experience was very limited. And so, but I was in uniform on Friday, and I was in school doing a massage therapy program at Georgian College on the Monday. So I went from one structure to another. So my first 6 months was just busy going to school and learning to be a civilian. It was once my program was done, and like now I was on my own, and I had no, and no one telling me what to do. I had no scope of practice. I had no subordinates. I didn't have a rank, and it was a huge struggle. And I think a lot of people, like when you do basic training, by the time you're done basic training, you are like brainwashed per se, where you've turned yourself off. So you don't, like, your feet could be bleeding in your boots, you could have stuff going on at home, and you're capable of just turning it off and not recognizing that you're in pain or struggling mentally, physically. And you do that your entire career, because as soon as you identify that you're injured in some way, shape, or form, it typically could affect your career. So most people, like, by the time you're done basic training, you've already turned yourself off, and then you spend your career not putting your hand up and saying, hey, I need help. So I struggle. That was my biggest thing, that once my program was done and I was back home, and then I had nothing like I did in the military, that I didn't even know how to ask for help. So, yeah.
Now, this is completely off, not off the topic, but connected. But just to add a little humor there, I was a school teacher for 15 years. So that also was a very, not the military, but it was a very regimented, controlled environment, you might say. And I did not realize how programmable we are. So when I left teaching, the first 6 months, at 10:30 in the morning, I went into a sales career, and I could be at a desk at an appointment doing a presentation and say to the client, potential client, right at 10:30, excuse me, do you mind? I have an apple in my purse. And because I had an apple at recess all the time I went through school and all the time that I taught school. And here I am now on, so to speak, Civvy Street. And I had to have that apple. And I was really, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I'd be in the middle of something and say, excuse me, do you mind? I have to use your washroom, and I'm just going to eat my apple while you're thinking about what you're going to do next. And it was like, whoa.
You just hit the nail on the, you just
flexible.
hit the head. You hit the nail on the head. You really did.
Did I?
Yeah, 100%. Because what got me back in the game was creating a new set of routines, a new self-discipline. I had to recreate what I lost in order to regain my identity.
Exactly.
Right? And I don't know other opinions on that, but I think that's hitting the nail on the head.
Well, great. And I'll just add a little extra to that story, and then we'll go to the ladies. So 2 years, I retired, and the community where I taught had this big retirement party for me. And I had all these gifts and all this kind of stuff. And 2 years later, I'm in the mall, and I'm just window shopping. And this woman from the community where I had ended my career, she came up to me and she said, what? It was a Tuesday. She said, what are you doing in here? Aren't you supposed to be in school? So here's the other challenge. Because people knew us one way, they don't know how to let go of that and put us in our new box, because they've still got us in the old box. And I said to her, well, I retired 2 years ago. You were at the party. Oh my goodness, she said, I'm so sorry. I said, and besides, I'm trying to shed the image. I don't even want to look like a school teacher anymore. So ladies, how was it developing a new routine? So let's go to Stefan again, though. What are some things you had to do to develop a new routine? That'll be our next question. What did you have to do to develop a new routine? Over to you, Stefan.
I completely changed my diet. I process my own food. I don't eat processed food, starch or sugar. I had to learn to use cannabis, which was super difficult. And it took me a couple of years just to find a strain that I could tolerate, that didn't cause me problems. And then the delivery system, if you inhale or smoke it, it's too quick. It loads up fast and doesn't last. So I had to learn to process my own into edibles so that it had a sustained release. So a lot of retraining, just step-by-step processing. And that's pretty much what did it. And having the right supports in place. I had and still have a wife who's incredible, who has helped me to do that. When I was first released, I was abandoned. I had no one. And the difference, I think, is when you have that help and when you learn how to ask for it, right, and utilize it, then you grow faster and you become better than what you were.
Excellent. Thank you. Jill, what did you have to do to create some new habits?
Well, looking back on it, I was a fish out of water for a little while. I just hung out for the summer. I wanted to get prepared for my academic program in September, but I was doing physical therapy. I was in chronic pain. I was medically released for chronic pain. And so I was doing my best to manage that on my own. So it was quite a challenge. And once I started going to school, it was so much, I found so much relief because I was able to connect with more people. I kind of isolated when I got out because I lost my network. I lost my safety net and my routine. And I didn't realize how much I needed it and how much I depended on it, on the structure of the military until it wasn't there. And so it was a struggle for me. I'll be honest. But once I got into going full-time college in September, it forced me into a routine. But I was a bit of a lost soul for a little while.
All right. Over to you, Natalie. How did you get yourself back into a sort of a normalcy, if you like?
Well, I don't know if I'll ever consider myself normal, or getting back into the normal. I know for myself, like I struggled with the transition and I needed to self-identify that I needed help. And I put my name out for a True Patriot Love expedition. And I was selected. It was going through the Arctic with a group of women. And there was a moment that hit me at the end of the expedition where we were all sharing our stories or how we felt about the expedition. And one of the ladies had mentioned how everyone is like, oh, wow, it's, good for you doing such a great thing. And she was like, no, it's no big deal. And she realized after 100 kilometers through the Arctic that 100 kilometers is a big deal. And she's like, I will not minimize my accomplishments ever again. And those words hit me so deeply that it impacted me from that moment on. And there was like this behind in my head going, I've minimized kind of the less desirable things that I've been through as well. And I need to like regain who I am. So it was more or less at that moment where I was like, no, I do have a story and I do have a purpose. And it was really hard to go from like, man, you just did something really cool for the last 14 of your years of your life. How are you going to top that? And it wasn't like a competition per se, but for me, where I felt like I regained some of maybe not my normalcy, but was reconnecting with the community that I was so familiar with. And like when I moved back to Edmonton, or I moved to Edmonton and connected with the Veterans Association Food Bank, where I hadn't served with anybody there, but they took me in as family instantly. And it was regaining that community and connection that allowed me to stand on my 2 feet again. And it's still a work in progress. So, but yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm of the generation where, our parents were in World War II. So, my dad came home. So I'm we're the next generation of that generation, which makes me really old when I think about it. But having been I did a show about a year ago, and I had a panel, and it was all of us in that generation whose parents were in World War II, and how that affected us growing up and how that got passed down. So my dad came home from World War II. He was an alcoholic already,
Mhm.
and smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Mhm.
And when he got back, I know he was in Camp Hill, which was the military hospital in Halifax, in the psych ward, and he was there for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what all happened there, but when they came home, they're really, like Stefan alluded to earlier, there was nothing. I mean, mental health wasn't even in our vocabulary back then. So we, as the children of those guys and gals, that played havoc in our families and how we were brought up and how it impacted our childhood and how we turned out. And even though that was the situation with my dad, he was always a terrific provider and he was not abusive in any way. But he did not have his very first flashback until he was 75. So he carried all that pain and all that trauma and all that. And we know that's where and why the alcohol, so that he wouldn't have those memories and he wouldn't be able to, come back from that. So that's just a little tidbit around the offspring. So, if you have children or you have spouses, they're also impacted. And let's talk about that for a few minutes. Maybe not you personally around that, but what you know about how our veterans and their suffering when they do get back, what kind of an impact that has on family.
I could jump in with a little bit of history, which brings us back to D-Day, and actually goes back further. When veterans first returned from World War One, there was no medical pensions, there were no jobs, and they were not fit enough to work. Um, Out of that came the 1919 Pension Act. Then, in World War II, all the veterans came back. Same problem. The 1919 Pension Act was in place. No one could access it. No one could gain, it became adversarial, right? And so following that, there was like hundreds and hundreds of veterans groups that started up. And the government became so concerned that they said, okay, all of you form one group and we'll give you a seat at the table. So they formed the Legion, gave them a seat at the table, but they didn't give them a vote, right? That was over 100 years ago, and we are no different today than we were back then. We have hundreds of veterans organizations. Natalie referred to True Patriot Love. I got to do the Douglas expedition in 2017 with True Patriot Love. That's why I started writing. It was great. It's therapeutic, but there's still a disconnect between all of these organizations and each other. So we're still not working together. We're still insulated, and a lot of the problems I think that we're facing because we stopped talking to each other when we left the military. Whereas if we recreate our units, we recreate that camaraderie, then we're more likely to be able to work unified and do what we need to do again.
Okay, excellent. Jill, what about you? How do you feel that, returning veterans, how that impacts family life, marriages, relationships?
Well, the military, they have a high divorce rate, a lot of broken families, a lot of inherited trauma to the children I've seen. I don't have children myself, but I am divorced. Yes, it does affect the family life, and that's not something they focus on when you're serving. They'll give you time off to help sort yourself out, but no real programs regarding family and relationship skills and effective communications and so on. So even though it is its own subculture and there's structure there for the military, there's no real focus on, well, when I was in, there wasn't a lot of focus on keeping the family unit together and a focus on family. Sure, they have the Military Family Resource Center and so on, but you're on your own to be your own advocate for your family. And there's
Okay.
a lot of pressure on the spouses.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people deploy, you pack your bags and away you go, and everything that you need is taken care of when you're away. But the family unit is on, like, it's a single parent family,
Right.
and the stress is on parents taking care of children as a single parent while you're concerned about your loved one being deployed in a war zone.
Right.
So
All right, let's go to Natalie. And I see Jay has arrived. So Natalie, I'd love your feedback on that. We'll take a little 30-second break, and then we'll welcome Jay Stoyan, founder of the Disability Channel, to join us. Over to you, Natalie. How do you feel? Well, you probably see a lot of it in your day-to-day role there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to supporting the families. One thing, like, I'd done a little a phase 2 with Ken Praxis, which is equine therapy, and I was a participant with spouses, and it gave me a perspective that I never experienced, because my spouses in the military were usually military themselves, so there was no distinction between the two. We were just on a go, go, go. But for the wife, because typically it is a wife, and the children, the husband goes away on deployment or is on tasking, and they're gone like sometimes 80-90% of the year, whether that's overseas or just within the training realms. But that the spouse or the military person is always the hero, so they're always regarded in a certain way. But when they leave, the wife or the spouse will take over all duties, blue job, pink jobs, everything, parenting, and dealing with all the challenges of everyday life. And then the hero comes back, and then they're put on the back burner. And there could be like mental health or physical challenges that the soldier is dealing with, that the family also takes on. So it's a burden that is often, I think, unspoken and they're just not taken care of in a certain way, but they are fully immersed in the military life with their spouse. And so I feel like there's still a lot of room for improvements when it comes to taking care of the families of our soldiers and men and women.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're just going to take a little 30-second break. Give me a chance to bring in Jay, and then we'll continue our conversation. And thank you so much for all of the insight, because this was your life, and this is your life, and far be it from anybody outside to have an opinion, really. All right. Just saying. Welcome back, everyone. You're watching the Today Show here on the Disability Channel, and today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, so we're honored and privileged to have 3 veterans with us, giving us some insight on life in the military before, during, and after. And welcome, Jay. Over to you to say hello to us this morning.
Well, thank you, Laurie. Thank you for having me on the show today. And wow, I've been listening off camera to what Jill and Natalie were sharing, and thank you so much for that insight. My head is spinning with ideas on how to further help persons in the military. Like, this is so amazing. But before I go further, I just want to thank all 3 of you for your service. You guys are all heroes. Stefan, we have a great history together, and now I'm meeting Jill and Natalie, and we hope to help both you two in the future all we can. This is what we're all about. So obviously today's a very special day. We myself and Laurie just finished our radio show on Sirius XM, where we give a big shout out to veterans across North America as our heroes. So thanks again. Why don't I do this, Stefan? Why don't you tell me in a nutshell, kind of, if you can, what does today mean to you as far as memories, as far as your fellow, man and woman? Just give us a little bit of insight on what you're thinking today.
Today is one of those days where we failed to learn from history. And we have doomed ourselves to repeat it again. Unfortunately, that's how I view today. It's something that we let ourselves get pulled into because of politics and trade wars and all that crap. And that resulted in, World War II and D-Day invasion. And we've not learned anything. We're just doing it all over again. Take a look at the news.
That's such a unique perspective coming from a soldier, especially.
It's because, so negative, but it's just reality.
Yeah, it is. But coming from a soldier who's been there, done that, I really respect that opinion. Like highly. Like, wow. And how about you, Jill, yourself? What does today mean to you as far as you and your family, or any memories or any insight you want to add?
Well, what today represents to me is I have memories of so many veterans that I've met over the years that are no longer here. And when I served overseas in Germany, I went to the many Commonwealth war graves, war cemeteries, particularly one in Groesbeek in the Netherlands, where there are over 2,200 Canadian soldiers buried. And the oldest one in the cemetery, I think, was 27 or 28 years old.
Oh, wow.
And interestingly, Remembrance Day of 1993, the first Remembrance Day, and the first time I ever visited Groesbeek, and you see all the headstones, and you see the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, Governor General's Foot Guards, all these regiments that I'm familiar with. And I'm there with my dear friend Tara. She's serving with me, and she had a bouquet of roses or flowers. And I said, "What are those for?" And she said, "Well, my grandfather's buried here.
Ooh.
I've never seen his grave yet, and I brought flowers for his grave." And I thought, "Oh my goodness, Tara!" And so, and then in the 50th anniversary of Victory over Europe in May of 1995, we went to Groesbeek, Tara and I, and we met some of the soldiers who fought with some of the fallen in that cemetery. And I met soldiers who basically fought their way up from Italy to the Netherlands. Some of them landed at D-Day. Some of them participated in Operation Market Garden, which was after D-Day. It was incredible to meet these brave Canadian men, Canadian soldiers.
What a rich history. Yeah, what a rich history. Like, wow. Like, that's, again, thank you, Jill, for sharing that, because, again, as a civilian and, just an everyday normal guy, I don't know the inside baseball, if you want to call it that. So I really appreciate sharing that. And Natalie, what does today bring for you in your experience?
For me, like I had the opportunity 20 years ago at the 60th anniversary to be on Juno Beach for D-Day. I went as a medical representative of the medical Canadian Forces medical branch, where we had placed a plaque on a tank found or unburied on Juno Beach. So I was a no-hook private. I was new to the military. And so we got to have a drink at the base of Pegasus Bridge and met a soldier who landed via parachute on that day. So it brings like fond memories of what I did in the military, and the same sentiment as Stefan and Jill, where there's still a lot of work to do, and it just furthers my resolve that what I'm doing to help veterans outside of the military is where I need to be, and there's a lot of work to do.
Well, thank you for sharing. I really want to thank the three of you for sharing. Laurie, did you want to jump in? Because I have another topic I'd like to introduce, but I thought maybe instead of talking the whole show, since I came in, I would pass the baton back to you for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I would like to just really, reserve the show for the purpose of it today. So we'll come back to you, Jay. Thank you.
Okay.
the next question I had for our guests was, and I know they're all going to be very passionate about this, so I don't know how much time they'll take.
Okay.
But right now, you know, we know we have a lot of veterans in a crisis situation. And whether that's, you know, homeless, addictions, suicide, um, abandonment, all of PTSD. I mean, there's just so much. So, what do you think right now is facing our veterans that, you know, you get kind of really angry about? And it's okay to be angry, and you have a right to be angry. So, what, you know, what's ticking you off right now about the situation for our veterans? Stefan?
Leadership, in a nutshell. The problem is the leadership, the people who are making the decisions. So one of the analogies I like to use is that, you know, we're sitting on the side of a bank, and there's a set of rapids to your left, you know, and someone comes shooting down those rapids. You see that they're in distress and they're in need, so you reach out, you try and grab a hold of an arm, you pull them up, you know, and you just sort of sit back and relax, and also you see someone else coming down, and so you start spending all day, every day, pulling people out of rapids, and everyone's trying to pull the people out of the rapids, you know, and they're all so busy trying to pull people out of the rapids, no one stops to think for a second. What if we went upstream, found out why they're falling in, and prevent it? And right now, all I see is government, bureaucracy, focusing on fixing the problem after it's occurred. And it doesn't matter what aspect of our society, you know, whether it's poverty, right? It's only after poverty occurs do we want to try and fix it. It's only after there's starvation. It's only after there's a medical crisis. It's only after children have died. It's only after, and we never do anything to prevent.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah,
Jill?
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, one thing that I've experienced is the frustration with the bureaucracy with Veterans Affairs. It took me 18 years before I was able to manage to get some benefits from Veterans Affairs. And there were programs I didn't even realize were there for me. And I struggled for so many years, physically and emotionally. And I'm grateful for the benefits I have now. I'm fully pensioned now, but I fought for years, and I'm still in caught up in the bureaucracy of it with some claims that I'm submitting. And I've helped other veterans, because some people apply for benefits and then they get so fed up with the bureaucracy, they walk away.
Right.
And they struggle and they suffer. And so what I do now, and it gives me great fulfillment, is I advocate for veterans who need support in navigating the bureaucracy. You know, with my administrative background, and I speak on their behalf when they need it. And there are so many who are suffering in silence. And so I'm encouraging veterans to reach out. If you can't pick up the phone yourself to call Veterans Affairs, maybe, you know, ask and see if there's someone there to help you, like another veteran, a veteran food bank, Soldier On, or contact your local Legion for the service officers, because there are some good people out there advocating on behalf of veterans. So I just encourage veterans to reach out if they're needing help.
Good, great feedback there, Jill. Also, too, it was making me, when you were talking, it was making me feel like that difficulty of passage is almost intentional, right?
It feels that way.
Right,
Yeah.
it feels that way, and it appears to be that way, and it probably is that way. Over to you, Natalie.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment, like the bureaucracy, the like challenges of getting support. Like I have a gentleman served 20 years in the infantry, jumped out of planes for like 7 or 8 of those years, and he has to prove that his knees, his back, his neck, like he has to prove that those are injured. And a lot of times there's not a lot of documentation, because if he had documented, it would have affected his career. So there's just the challenge of proving that the wear and tear that happens on somebody's body from serving the military, carrying a 60, 70-pound rucksack, like having to prove that when there should be at least automatic things that people are entitled to because of their service. Like for myself, when I was overseas, I carried more than my own body weight in plus 50 degrees on uneven ground with poor, crappy boots, and long days and the physical challenges that I dealt with for 8 months straight. That's not enough to say like, hey, my body's, a lot more physically challenged than it should be at my age.
Right.
So,
Well, I have a, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stefan.
The bizarre part about all of that is everything that Natalie's talking about, that Jill's talking about, or that I talk about, all of this is extremely well documented. And so before you're medically released, you have to go on to a temporary category where they outline all your deficiencies, what's wrong, why it's wrong, blah, 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 right? And then after so many years, if it can't be resolved in a certain period of time, then you go on to a permanent category and you're looking at a medical release. All that stuff is there. And instead of it being what qualifies you for a medical pension, right, it gets buried, and now you have to prove that all of that existed.
Exactly. And here's even something more bizarre, Jay, and then over to you.
Okay.
Okay, my husband served in the military. He's a retired AME. He worked on military aircraft. And he was in the military for 6 years. That's where he got his trade. And when I met him at 50, I was yelling at him. And I'm saying, what's wrong? Well, he said, I have tinnitus because back in the day when we worked on the aircraft, we didn't wear protective gear and all this kind of stuff. I said, wow, I'm getting my hair done. Now, this is how the communication gap exists. I'm living proof as a civilian. I'm getting my hair done. My hairstylist, her dad came in to drop something off. He's a veteran. And I talked to him and I started yelling. And he said, well, Laurie, you don't have to yell at me. He said, I've got my new hearing aids in. And I said, oh, well, gee, that's what Ron needs. Well, yes, he said. Is he, not able to hear? And I said, no. He said, well, he should apply to Veterans Affairs because there's a package for, if he can show that happened in the military, then he can get some compensation and probably pay for his hearing aids. I found out from my hairdresser's husband in the hair shop what would be available perhaps for Ron.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the line of communication to back that up. I'm living proof that you're absolutely correct.
And that's how I learned, and that's how Jill learned, and that's how Natalie.
Over to you, Jay.
This is really good. I really love this information because behind the scenes, we've been working on something to further help veterans. Like, I don't know, I know Jill knows, and I don't know if Natalie knows about our program. So that's how we sort of linked up with the Veteran Affairs and all the veteran organizations, is through we create employment programs and media for first persons with disabilities, but now also veterans. So the VA came a calling, and now we help veterans. And since we've been helping veterans, just like you guys have been talking, lots of potholes, lots of missing links, lots of bureaucracy, lots of red tape, and so on and so forth. And I don't want to blame anybody for that, but it's just a reality. That's how it is, right? So we have our foot in the door now with the VA. We are a vendor, but what I'm creating behind the scene is going to be called a TDC task force for the military. And I'd love to pick your guys' brains because generally, I don't know, I'm asking a question now. Generally, when does a person enroll? Between the ages of 18 and 21? Is that kind of like the norm, or Stefan?
I joined at 17.
There you go.
We had on my basic training, the average is 34.
Okay.
Age. So yeah.
I think things have changed a lot from when I joined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like when I was 17, I'm 61. There's a big age gap there too. So someone joining today is going to experience a whole different military.
Because this is what I'd like to do with our task force, along with inserting our employment programs, which gives veterans a new purpose in life. Working in the media, You know, they want to focus. They want something to do. We'd love to have them on their team. But I want to start talking to veterans who are now out of the military and just say, okay, guys or ladies, when you went in at 19 or 21 or 34, let's talk about what is missing. And I want to get the information from you. So what I'm trying to say is set up a safety net, almost like, and I don't want to mention this organization, but I'm going to mention the ACLU, right? The ACLU down in the United States, right? It's all about equality and persons' rights. And sometimes they get a little off rails, but I want to create that for the channel and for our veterans, our heroes, is to say, talk to the veterans who are now retired and just say, you know, for the new veterans going either into the battlefield or into whatever sector they're in, we need to have this safety net for them. They need to have this provided to them because we know what we didn't have, and that's not fair. So I would love to set something up like that, just a discussion.
Yeah, and right off the top of my head, I would say unit associations, right? So a lot of the reserve units have unit associations, but a lot of the Reg Force ones don't. I was fortunate. One of mine, actually two of them, have unit associations. But if you were moved physically, I guess, in some administrative focus into a unit association where there were resources and people that could work with you outside of the rank and chain of command, I think that could help improve transition somewhat.
I would love to, to explore that and do it through your organization, Stefan. You know what I mean? And have is because we have met so many great veteran organizations over the last couple of years across Canada and into the USA. Big shout out to Project Die Hard. Those guys are doing wonderful things down in Illinois. And I know we have quite the crowd of veterans on our team. So I'm thinking we're going to talk, Stefan and Natalie and Jill. You're all welcome to participate. I love you guys participate because I know you guys can add insight that I would never know. Like I just want to take the soldier from A to Z, from when he enrolls to when he retires, and make sure he's taken care of along with his family.
Yeah,
right?
and with that, like every veteran's career and experiences are going to be somewhat different, especially by time frame. So like by the time I was released and so another veteran was joining, kind of deal, their experiences and their needs are going to be significantly different than what mine were. Right.
That's right.
A lot of the basics remain the same, but some of the specifics change. And so I think this is where you really have to, it can't be a one size fits all.
No.
But there has to be some basic elements to it. Yeah.
Customized. So ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up to closing time, and I want to just pose one more little quick question to everyone. And that would be just to ask you on this day, because that was a great question that Jay asked, what does it mean for you? And you weren't here, Jay, when I shared that this particular day in my household when I was growing up was almost like a day off and a holiday. And it was to honor my dad for having served. But if you were to give some words of encouragement to our veterans out there, either who are still in service or service after service, as you call it, what would you say to them right now that could be hopeful, encouraging? I believe our platform today has been very encouraging because you've all said things that I know a lot of people are probably thinking, but don't have the voice to share that or to say that or even the nerve to say it because they think that our bureaucracies are God. And it's kind of like years ago, people thought their doctor was God, so they wouldn't say anything bad about their doctor, even if he was sitting there weighing 400 pounds and smoking a cigarette and telling you need to quit smoking. Where's the credibility in that? So over to you, Stefan, starting us off with words of encouragement right now for what's happening.
Yeah, you know what? We're already seeing it. People are starting to love one another again. We've had enough of you're contaminated, stay away from me, and it's time we start showing our compassion and start closing. Well, in the military, we would call it closing ranks. You know what I mean? So we need to close ranks. We need to start working together closely and and really support each other instead of, I mean, this has been our philosophy all along as well, is we want others to succeed so that we can succeed. And if they can't succeed, we won't.
No. Excellent. Thank you. Jill, a few words of encouragement?
Well, I want to mention the value of service after service. When I started volunteering with the Canadian Walk for Veterans in 2017, that led me to Mefloquin Awareness Canada and meeting Stefan. That led me to working as an ambassador with Quilts of Valor Canada. And then I found out about Soldier On and True Patriot Love there. So if you're needing to reach out, there are organizations out there. And if you want to get involved, it can be very rewarding. And reach out. If you're needing support, please reach out.
Thank you. Natalie, words of encouragement?
All along the same lines. We spend our entire career out of our comfort zones so that people can be comfortable back home. So it is something that we're really good at. So stepping out of your comfort zone and connecting with our family and tribe, like other veterans, other military associations or organizations. And I've seen it firsthand where it just opens up people that feel so alone and have nowhere to turn, that just connecting with a group of veterans to just open their heart and their minds to be able to like take that first step and ask for help. So
Thank you. Wonderful. Jay, words of encouragement to our veterans from where you're sitting?
I would just say connect with your local veteran. Connect with a local veteran. They are so grounded. They are so honest. They're so real. Like, it's just, you guys have just brought so much energy, positive energy to the channel and to our community. Because you remember, like I was saying before, like, as a person from the disability community, I have an incurable illness. So I've had it my whole life, right? So when we started connecting with veterans, the one gentleman said to me, one of the veterans said, Jay, your channel is perfect for our community because you guys, most of you have grown up with a disability your whole life. So you've learned how to adapt, right? That's the way it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles, right? You have an illness, you have a disability. Well, that's it. For the veterans, they go into service, most of them, all of them, able-bodied. And when they come out, they're now broken a little bit like the disability community. So by connecting the two, you give each other strength, because the veteran is in a new world of being disabled or, having an illness or having a situation. So they look at the person with a disability who's had it their whole life and say, how do I cope with this? In the meantime, the person with a disability looks towards the veteran and goes, oh my God, what a strong hero. I feel honored to be, I'm going to cry. I feel honored to be beside you guys. I do. Yeah. I do. Mm-hmm. I feel really honored.
Thank you for giving us a platform, Jay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have us all in tears now, Jay. Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Jay. Well, you've been watching the Today Show here on D-Day, and I certainly feel honored and privileged also to be able to be here to support this. And thank you, Jay, for the amazing opportunity you have given me personally. Now I'm going to cry. And to use my talents and gifts in a place where they're really appreciated. That's huge for me.
Thank you.
So thank you.
This show's going to go worldwide. This show's going to go worldwide. We're going to be pumping this show out. I want all the veterans across the world to watch this, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and Virginia Clark says, Virginia is one of my teammates who's actually battling breast cancer right now and doing really well, but she's one of ours. And now she says, we're all in tears. Thank you, Virginia. She's one of our big supporters.
Yeah, our platform's blowing up, so that's good.
That's right. So tomorrow, I have a young filmmaker coming in from New York City for the first half of the show. And Jay, who are you bringing the last half of the show?
Oh, we have one of the musicians from the Guess Who, from Burton Cummings Band. Wow. Yeah. This is going to be great. His name is Jeffrey Jones. I go back with Jeff probably about 15 years. He was on my show way back in the day, my music show. So we connected at the Burton Cummings show last month or a month and a half ago. We went there. They invited us up there for nice VIP seats, and I talked to Jeff, and I told Jeff, you got to come on the show. All my viewers want to hear you playing with Burton and your own illustrious career. So that's tomorrow. So it's good to have variety, right?
Oh, absolutely. Fun Friday. Friday's all about fun. And I have a young woman. Her dad's a good friend of mine, and she's studying filmmaking and the media, and she just produced a little tiny film. So she's all excited to be here too. So I think she'll be eventually on our team, Jay, our production team for sure. All right, everybody wave goodbye.
Thank you, guys. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.